What's up, YouTubers? Today's video is going to be how to replace the CV axle, and this is a 2009 Lexus es350, and I'm doing this outside in my driveway, so you're going to hear cars come by and all that kind of crap. It's probably going to be noisy at times, but I'll try to be loud so you guys can hear me. But first thing you want to do is you want to get the car on a flat surface, okay? Then you want to set your emergency brake on it. Jack it up. And when you're jacking it up, I advise you to use an extra jack stand, just in case this jack right here fails. You want to have that extra backup. Okay, after that, go ahead and get your tire off. And the lug nuts on these are a size 21 millimeter. And let's get started. CV axle replacement. All right, guys, so after you get the tire off, you're gonna want to break this caliper loose, this front brake caliper loose. And the bolt sizes that are on that are 14 millimeter. And what I like to do is I like to hang it with one of my S hangers. You can get them at any auto parts store, anything like that, online, whatever. But I like to hang them so it doesn't put stress on this brake line. Because if you put stress on that brake line, it's gonna tear it and your brakes ain't gonna be any good no more. You're gonna need a new hose. So that being said, we'll continue. My next step is going to be get this front brake caliper bracket off, and I think the bolts on this are going to be a size 18 or a 19. So let me do that real quick. So then bolt sizes on that bracket are an 18 millimeter, guys. Okay, now I already got it off and I'm getting ready to pull the rotor off, and you want to set this rotor somewhere where it's not going to get scratched or dinged up. So I'm just going to set it on top of that tire right there. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and crack the bolts to the front strut, and there's two right here, and I think those are either 21s or 24s. So I'm going to crack those loose, and then I'm also going to crack this. I don't know if you could see it, there's a nut right there on the actual CV axle, and I'm going to crack that loose and take that off. And I'll be back in a minute. All right, guys, so them bolts to the front struts is a 22 millimeter, and the nut to the CV axle is a 32 millimeter. Now I got this set right here. It's a good set. I got this from Cornwall Tools, but it's gonna be the 32 millimeter for the CV axle nut itself. If you use a 33, you're gonna strip it out, okay? Got the bolts out. I'm almost ready to knock this sucker out. But what you want to do next is you want to get this bolt right here to your lines. There's a little bolt right here. But you got to get that bolt out. I think that is either going to be a 13 or a 14. And I'm going to do that next, and then I'll come back. All right, guys, so I got that little bolt out, and it's a 12 millimeter. Now what you want to do next is you want to turn your wheels to the passenger side, because you got to get this this bar out for the power steering rack. You got to take that out, and this nut right here, I've already checked it, is going to be a 17 millimeter. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so I got that bolt out, and the next thing you want to do is you want to take this little bolt out to the ABS sensor right here. Okay, and that bolt looks like it's going to be a 10 millimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and take that bolt out, and then I'm going to start pulling this CV axle out. There's a special tool that you could use, or you could use a pry bar to get it out, but I have a special tool that I use, and it's a CV axle puller. So let me get that bolt out, and then let me try to wiggle this thing out. So I got the bolt out. It was a 10 millimeter, and then I just pulled this this knuckle out. So now I'm going to try to wiggle this CV axle out itself. And like I said, you can use a pry bar, and that's probably what I'll do to get it out, but I got special tools too in case the pry bar won't work. So make sure your vehicle's on jack stands, that way it doesn't fall down on you. And like I said, I got all my bolts and stuff inside a little canister right here, that way I don't lose all of them. And when you're doing this underneath the car, make sure you're wearing safety glasses, because there's dirt and stuff underneath there, and it's going to get in your eyes, and you're going to be mad about it, and you're not going to be able to see, and you're going to have to go rinse your eyes out and all that crap. So I'm going to do that next. Well, guys, I got it out. It took me a little while. couldn't get it with my pry bar. So what I did is I used my special tool, my CV axle tool, and I got it out with this one right here. This one that's tapered on the ends. But sometimes they're like that, sometimes they're stubborn and they won't come out, and then sometimes they'll come out real easy. So it just depends on the application that you're dealing with and all that stuff. I want to note that on the end of this CV axle, there's like a little snap ring in there. And you just got to pop that snap ring out of its spot. But yeah, I couldn't get it with a pry bar, so I had to get it with this special tool right here. But I'm going to go ahead and install the new one. It's inside, I got to go grab it. I'm going to install that, and then I'll show you guys how to put this thing back together, step by step. Alright guys, I got the new CV axle in. What you want to do is you want to make sure that that O-ring or that snap ring snaps into place. Okay, if you don't, and it's not snapped into place, when you go to turn or make turns, left or right, whatever, this CV axle right here is going to come out, and I've seen it in real life. I've seen them pop out, and it just destroys them and messes everything up, and then you got to redo everything all over again. So make sure it snaps into place. One thing I want to say is right here on these splines, towards the outside where the tire goes, you need to put some grease on these splines right here. Because if you don't, it's going to be real hard to get it out next time. And when I took the old one out, there was no grease on this, guys, and it was kind of a pain in the ass to take out. So putting some light grease on there, you know, just spread it around there on the splines. Not a whole lot, you know what I mean? Just a couple dabs, and you should be good to go. But I'm gonna do that next, and we'll go from there, guys. So I got the bolts back into the front struts, and make sure you're using thread lock on these nuts, because you do not want them to back out. And because if they do, your front end of your car is gonna be destroyed. So use thread lock. I've already got this bolt right here in to the brake lines and stuff, and I've already got the bolt in to the ABS sensor. But you don't have to use thread lock on those. You can if you want to, but I wouldn't recommend it. But let me go ahead and get these bolts tight. 22 millimeter, and I use a crescent wrench for a backup. You don't have to, but I do, and it's quicker anyway. So let me get these tight and snugged up, and then I'll start putting the brackets and the caliper and the rotor on. Hey guys, make sure you're using thread lock on these two bolts to your bracket, your caliper bracket. Let me get these snugged up real quick, and then we'll go from there. But I already got the rotor on, and then I'm fixing to do this right now. Use thread lock, guys. You don't want them backing out. Okay, so I got the bracket back on, and you want to make sure that them bolts to that bracket are tight with thread lock, guys. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this brake caliper back on, and I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that up, and then I'll start getting this nut right here on. All right, guys, I got the brake caliper back on and tight. And my last step, well, before I do the actual nut to the CV axle, is my rack and pinion right there. That arm right there needs to go back into this steering knuckle right here. Do not forget that. Let me get that real quick, and then we'll proceed. Don't forget to put in your cotter key, guys. On this castle nut right here, there's a little hole. I don't know if you could see that, but there's a hole right there. And that cotter key goes right in there. Do not forget that, because it will back off. And the last thing you guys want to do is tighten that CV axle nut to 214 pounds. Do not forget that. That was my last step, but I did it with the tire on the ground and the car off the jack. But 214 foot-pounds.